Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Another day, another dollar. All ready for another day's work. But I thought I'd do a video before I left for work regarding the whole Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte situation. There was that TalkSport slanging match between Frank Warren and Dillian Whyte's lawyer. I'm sort of one of those guys. I suppose it's because I'm long in the tooth. I think, wake me up when we get there. I'm not into all this politics stuff. I don't find it particularly absorbing. I find it to be rather tedious, all this politicking. I've seen it all before. No one should be surprised that various boxing promoters, managers and so on have no sense of morality. They are just purely interested in the bottom line, which is the dollar, and any kind of good treatment of boxers or fair play is really an afterthought, or maybe a bit of a side dish. But I think, excuse me, I think the Dillian Whyte situation highlights, apart from other things which I'm going to discuss later, which other people have talked about, it highlights the danger of a fighter managing himself. Because when we hear about fighters managing themselves, we tend to think, good for them. And yeah, good for them in some respects, but in other respects, no. In other respects, there are dangers, there are pitfalls. If you're going to manage yourself, you have to surround yourself with knowledgeable people who have got a lot more experience than you, people who've been around the houses a lot more than you. And although, Whyte has his team, you've got Baby Ting and he's got his lawyers and so on, Whyte is a bloody-minded person. That's how he comes across. He's no compromise. He's a street guy, intelligent guy, not well-educated, but an intelligent guy. Intelligence and education being two very different things, of course. Very, very bright guy, but he does have a bloody-minded ego. That's his mentality, because, he's a street guy. He had to fight to survive. Now, a lot of people have said that the blame lies at the feet of Whyte's lawyer. But I don't think that's true, and I'm going to explain why. First of all, Whyte insisted, for whatever reason, and I don't really know why, I've never heard a convincing explanation, he insisted on going down the WBC route when Wilder was the WBC champ. I've really no idea why. Surely the logical thing to do was to keep your options open, especially as Whyte was fighting a whole slew of really good guys, really quality fighters. Whyte is someone who ducks no one. And I'm not someone who throws this word duck around, avoid. This is prize fighting. If you don't feel you're getting enough money, if you know your worth and you insist on getting paid a certain amount, you're quite within your right to say, no, I'm not fighting for that. That's not a duck. That's business. But having said that, Whyte's ducked not ducked, but has not fought very, very few people. Going way, way back to Joshua for the British title when he got starched, and he came back, he fought loads of great guys. I'm not going to list them, you know who they are. It got knocked out by Povetkin, went straight back in with Povetkin and rectified that wrong. But he fixated on the WBC route. He went down one path. If you go down one pathway, it can turn out to be a rabbit hole and you end up getting stuck. So that was his first mistake. Now, as a result of that mistake, and getting... See, impatient is the wrong word, because I think Whyte had every right to be peeved with the WBC for not giving him his title shot. He was mandatory for God knows how long. But taking out litigation against the WBC won't exactly endear you to them. And Maurizio Suleiman doesn't strike me as the type of person who's going to play fair. He strikes me as the type of person who will bear grudges, as most business people will. Again, they'll make the excuse, it's just business. Okay, all is fair in love and war. Well, as a result of taking out the litigation, he's become the WBC's enemy. So what happens? They say, okay, you can have your title shot, but we will put First of all, they give him the 80-20 split, which he's clearly not happy with, nor necessarily should he be. And you've got such and such an amount of time to sign for this fight. You are the mandatory. We're giving you that shot, but you have to sign within this amount of time. In the meantime, Warren, who wins the purse bid, is cock blocking, if you like, certain demands that Whyte and his lawyer feel they deserve, in the name of fairness, whether it's being given half a dozen tickets, whereas Fury gets however many thousand, or whether it's other things pertaining to the actual purse or the add-ons or something, you know, all the minutiae of the contract. There wasn't enough time for Whyte and his lawyer, or lawyers, he's probably got more than one lawyer, to negotiate the minutiae of the contract. So as a result, all Warren has to do is to sit there, Warren and Fury, because Fury's no more moral than Warren, not really, I don't think. But all they've got to do is just sit there, wait for the clock to tick, and then Whyte has to sign if he wants the fight. If he doesn't want the fight, and he obviously does because he spent God knows how many years chasing the WBC belt, he can either step aside and say, no, I'm not interested, or he can sign and try and negotiate those other points at a later date. And do you think Warren and Fury and his team are going to roll over for any of Dillian's demands? No, not at all, not at all. So Whyte's hands were tied. And when people say, oh, he's got a terrible lawyer, his lawyer told him, as Warren keeps yapping away, because Warren, by the way, is so full of shit. I mean, if you give him an enemy, you could bury him in a matchbox. Let's cut the bullshit. It's always been that way. I remember Frank Warren when he started out, you know, and he was considered to be the one breaking up the cartel and the knight in shining armour, you know, going to bring democracy to boxing. How many people has he sued? Seriously. Anyway. You think Warren's going to give, or his side of the argument, do you think they're going to give over to Whyte? No, of course not. Whyte's the enemy. All is fair in love and war. This is business. So as a result, Whyte's hands are tied. He signs the contract. He then gets nothing that he initially wanted. And people have said, well, that's his, you know, why did your, as Warren says, why did your lawyer tell you to sign this contract? He had no choice. They would have lost the fight otherwise. So it's not the lawyer's fault. It's not Dillian's lawyer's fault. He's doing his best. But I think all of this is a result of Dillian managing himself, fixating on the WBC belt, not keeping his options open, not trying to get ranked in all the different bodies, not saying, come on, who's up for it? Who's up? Now, I know the belts were tied up with two people, Wilder and Joshua, and then, you know, Ruiz and Fury, and then Joshua, and now Usyk's got them. I know that the avenues to a title are limited, but you can still play. Perhaps if you're shrewd, you could play one ruling body off against another. Do you know what I mean? You can do a bit of juggling. You know, Whyte, regardless of all this 80-20 split, Whyte is a big attraction. He's sold some big pay-per-view numbers in Britain anyway, not in America, not so much in America, but in Britain. And he did have lots of bargaining chips to use, but he hasn't used them because he painted himself into a corner with this whole WBC thing. And poor old Whyte's lawyer is getting the heat, and I don't think that's fair. In fact, I think that's about as fair as Frank Warren's twaddle that he was talking on that talk radio thing. Why did you get your lawyer to sign? You know, you had a choice. No, you didn't. He didn't have a choice at all. It's either sign or miss out on your opportunity. That was the only choice Whyte had. It's kind of like people who are in really like slave labour jobs, and people say, well, you can always quit. What do you mean quit? What, and sleep on the street? Eat out of garbage cans? No. This is a let them eat cake attitude. You know, Marie Antoinette and all that. So I think that in one sense, White's got himself to blame. The self-management thing hasn't worked out for him. You need experienced people with knowledge who have been around the houses, who are shrewd, who have got an insight into how the machinations of the boxing world or the business world work in order to advise you. You can't, if you're a street guy, that's fine, but you can't bring that into sophisticated business workings. It's a different game. It's all to do with legalities. It's all to do with getting an edge, getting a legal edge, getting a multifaceted plan in place, and not just fixating or obsessing about one thing and making a direct sort of line for that one thing. In other words, it's a tree that needs multiple branches, not just a tree trunk. Bad analogy, but you know what I mean. So I don't know. I think I do have sympathy for White. Don't get me wrong. I think White deserves his shot, and I think the 80-20 split was nonsensical, and I don't blame him for removing himself from the publicity and so on and so forth. He'll probably get sued by Warren for that. Warren will sue anyone for anything. But don't be fooled by Warren's, charlatan comments. Yeah, he's not a nice person, not a moral person. Can you imagine if the boot was on the other foot and Fury was only getting 20%? Or let's not even go there. Let's say that Warren was managing White and not Fury. Do you think he'd accept all this, the 80-20 split, the being more or less crowbarred, coerced into signing that contract before all the details had been truly ironed out? You think he'd put up with that? Of course he wouldn't. He'd be spitting nails. The old net roll would be going into overtime, going into overdrive. But such is life, such is the boxing world. It's a shame, but it is what it is. I still have doubts whether this fight will happen. I really do. I could be wrong. And if it does happen, if I am wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope that this has focused Dillian's mind on giving the absolute best of himself. And for that, even though I'm not normally that bothered about who wins. I just want to see a fair fight and the right man win. So if that's Fury, that's fine by me. If that's White, that's fine by me. But on this occasion, because of the way White's been treated, and yes, he has brought a lot of it on himself, but I kind of think, well, I do hope he kind of wins, because it'd be nice. Not because I've got necessarily anything against Fury, but because I think Frank Warren and Bob Arum and all that lot they're kind of venal, aren't they? Anyway, what do you think of this? The Fury fanboys, of course, will be, oh, what are you talking about? You know what, they talk such a load of crap. They're almost as full of crap as Frank Warren. But if you're objective, and by the way, I've nothing against Fury, terrific fighter. What he's like as a person outside of the ring, probably a mixed bag, probably a bit of a bag of contradictions, a bit like his words. But I've never met the man, never likely to meet him, but I don't have anything against him. He's proved himself in the ring. But just the politics behind it lead me towards Dillian Whyte. Even though Dillian has been a silly boy by fixating on the WBC and going down that one road. It's always a bad thing in any form of business. Very, very bad. What do you think? Leave your comments below. Yeah, enjoy your day and all that. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Love it if you could subscribe, and I'll catch you later then. Hit the like button, obviously, and yeah, thanks a lot. See you soon. Bye-bye.